In this video, I'm going to show you how to place the front brake hoses on this Honda Accord. They go from your brake line down to your caliper. Let's get started. Let's remove the wheel. Use a 19mm socket, remove all 5 lug nuts, and then pull the wheel off. Sometimes the wheels are stuck, so give them a couple taps. The first thing I always check when disconnecting a brake hose is the line and the fitting on the line to make sure it breaks free. If this breaks free, I'm going to start at the caliper and work my way backwards. But if this is seized onto the line and it wants to break the line, I'm actually still going to start at the caliper so I can twist the hose off the line and then work my way from here back down to the caliper as opposed to the other way around. Use a 10mm flare nut wrench, put it on this fitting, and break it free, and it looks like mine breaks free, which is great. So I'm going to snug it back up, go back down to the caliper and start there. Right about where this bracket is, I'm going to take some locking pliers, squeeze the hose, and what this will do is it'll prevent the flow of brake fluid from continuing after I have the hose disconnected from the caliper. Make sure they're nice and snug, don't completely crush it, and I wouldn't do this to the new hose ever. I would just do this to the old hose because we're discarding it. On the original banjo bolt, it is a 14mm wrench or socket that you're going to need to use. I have a new one, and for me it's going to be a 12, but once again for you, 14mm, and break this free. Have a collection bucket underneath, because even though we pinched off the brake hose, the caliper is still full of fluid, so is the rest of the hose after where we pinched it. Carefully take this off. Discard those 2 copper washers. Inspect the banjo bolt. We will be reusing this. If it's stretched or stripped out, discard it and get a new one. Take the banjo bolt and put 1 new copper washer on it. This should be provided with your brake hose. Bring the new hose in, slide the banjo bolt through, and on the other side put another new copper washer. Start this into the caliper, making sure that this little line that comes off of the end of the hose actually goes through that cutout so it can line up. And keep in mind it is slightly curved. Make sure it's facing upwards, not downward. Snug this up. Let's torque it to 26 foot-pounds. Here on this bracket we have a 12mm bolt holding on the line to the bracket. I'm going to try to break this free with a wrench. A lot of times what happens is these bolts seize on. I already sprayed it with rust penetrant, but if I can't do this, then I'll have to unbolt the entire bracket and hold this with some pliers. Yep, this is exactly what usually happens. What I'm going to attempt now is to hold this bracket with some pliers so I can apply more force to it without bending it. All right, got it. Work that rust penetrant in. Remove this. I'm going to clean it up in my wire wheel because it is quite corroded. Take the brake hose and line it back up with this bracket. I cleaned up my bolt and we're going to start this in. I recommend putting a little bit of grease on these threads and between the brackets right here. That way it doesn't seize up in the future. Once it bottoms out, give it about 1/8 of a turn. That should be plenty, just enough to hold on this bracket. And now back to our line at the top. Have that collection bucket ready to catch the fluid that will come out. Break this free once again. Unthread it most of the way. Now you can switch to a regular 10mm wrench if you want. It'll make things a little bit easier. Before I remove the fitting all the way, I'm going to take some pliers and remove this clip that holds on the brake hose. Just grab this and twist it out. Make sure this comes out of here. And at this point you could even twist the brake hose completely off. I'm going to move the brake line aside a little bit and just wipe off this area so that when I stick the new brake hose in, debris doesn't get inside of the new brake hose. Take this, line it up. This hose will have a flat spot on it. The flat spot needs to be facing towards the frame of the vehicle. Because everything keeps wanting to move around, what I'm going to do now is actually clip in the brake hose in the correct orientation so I can maneuver the line around as needed without the brake hose coming off. Use a small hammer and tap this in. Remember that it won't go in if the hose isn't lined up. Now hold the line, and start threading that fitting on. This isn't always easy because if the threads aren't perfectly lined up, they won't start in. So make sure that that's actually lined up. It looks like I got it and it's threading on smoothly. You also might want to make sure you don't cross thread these. That would not be good. Okay, that's bottomed out. Give it a quick snug. About 1/8 of a turn after it bottoms out is plenty tight. Take some brake parts cleaner and clean off this area where there's a lot of brake fluid everywhere. You want to make sure you get that brake fluid off of any painted surface because it will eat away at the paint. Now let's pop the bleeder screw cap off so we can perform a gravity bleed. What this entails is, with a 10mm wrench, break that bleeder screw free and let gravity pull fluid through the brake hose and into the caliper and push all the air out naturally. This should get all the air out of the system, but if you feel that the pedal isn't firm enough, you can perform a full manual brake bleed after the job is complete, and you'll see that how to do it at the end of the video. For now, let's wait for the gravity bleed. Oh, looks like we already got fluid coming through with some air bubbles. Perfect. That's what we want. Looks like we have a nice steady trickle of fluid coming out of the bleeder screw. No air bubbles, so I'm going to close this off. Make sure it's nice and snug. Don't make it too tight. It's easy to strip these out or break them off. Just give it about 1/8 of a turn after it bottoms out. Wipe off anything that dripped, and of course use some brake parts cleaner to rinse it all off. Once everything has dried up, reinstall the bleeder screw cap so it doesn't get clogged up. Now pump up the brake pedal. Let's top off the master cylinder. Let's get the wheel on. Start on all 5 lug nuts, bottom them out in a cross pattern, and also in a cross pattern we're going to torque them to 79 foot-pounds. Double check them. And take it for a road test. Under the hood, you'll find the brake master cylinder located on the driver's side, right next to the strut tower. Mine is somewhat dirty, so I'm going to take a rag and just clean around it. That way when I remove the cap, the dirt doesn't fall into the master cylinder, but rather goes to the side of it. That's plenty clean. Turn it counterclockwise and pull it off. Now if you read the cap closely, it'll say that it requires .3 or .4 brake fluid. So make sure you have plenty on hand to do this job. And at this point, I like to start by removing the fluid that's in the reservoir so I can start with fresh fluid from the beginning. There's a little screen here that has to be removed. And I have a vacuum pump that's able to suck all the brake fluid out of the reservoir. So I'm going to stick the hose all the way down in here and remove the fluid. All right, I got all my fluid out. Put the little screen back in. Now let's fill this up with brake fluid up to the full line, which is basically right below the cap right here. Okay, that's full, so let's reinstall the cap. Make sure that's sealed up properly. The sequence for bleeding these brakes is actually a clockwise pattern starting at the driver's front wheel. So you're going to go left front, right rear, left rear. That's how you're going to bleed the calipers. And in between each axle, so after you do the front, you're going to top off the master cylinder. And then again, after you do the rear, you're going to top off the master cylinder again to keep it nice and full. At the end, if you think your brake pedal feels too soft and that there's still air trapped in the system, bleed again in the same sequence, and that should get all the air right out. I have an assistant in the vehicle ready to pump up that brake pedal, and to start, I'm going to take the bleeder screw cap off. I have this receptacle with a hose on it so I can make less of a mess. I'm going to put that on the bleeder screw and use a 10mm wrench to crack it open after they pump up the brake pedal a few times and then hold pressure on it so the brake fluid can be pushed out. Go ahead and pump.
Holding.
Okay, holding, so I'm going to open this up. There we go. That reached the floor, so I'm going to close it back off, and then they're going to go and pump again.
Holding.
All right, open it back up. We're going to do this until we have no more air bubbles coming out. Go ahead and pump again.
Holding.
Perfect. We got 2 clean bleeds in a row. Let's do it one last time, just for safe measure. Go ahead and pump.
Holding.
Perfect. Okay, you can go ahead and let off the brake now. Remove my hose. If anything dripped, go ahead and clean it off with some brake parts cleaner. And wipe it off with a rag. Then go ahead and cap this off so dirt and debris don't get in there and clog it up. Now we're going to do the same exact thing on the right front. And then we're going to top off that master cylinder and move to the rear. Let's top off the master cylinder. All right, we're now at the right rear caliper. We have topped off the master cylinder, so I'm going to take the bleeder screw cap off. Get the same little hose attached to this. With that same 10mm wrench is what I'm going to use to open up the bleeder screw. Go ahead and pump.
Holding.
Okay, holding pressure. Open this up. All right, we got air in this one. Go ahead and pump again.
Holding.
Okay. That's looking better. Go ahead and pump again.
Holding.
Okay. This one was clean. Let's do it again.
Holding.
Perfect. You can let go now. We have no air bubbles. Nice clean fluid came through. So at this point, we're going to clean this area off. Use some brake parts cleaner. Wipe it down. Cap it off. We're going to move to the left rear and do the same exact thing over there. Let's top off the master cylinder one last time. Make sure it's nice and full with fresh fluid. Now our job is done, but if your pedal doesn't feel right, go through the same sequence again until you feel it nice and firm with the engine off and you have no air coming out of the bleeder screws. Once you're done and you're happy, put the wheels back on. The torque for these is 79 foot-pounds in a cross pattern. Take it for a road test.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.